Hello everyone and welcome to my second speed build. Today I'm going to be building a Winterfest cabin in Brindleton Bay because today is Thanksgiving in the United States. So I decided to, make a build to get in the spirit of the holiday. So in this build I used cats and dogs and seasons, and cats and dogs I went ahead and used since I'm building it in Brindleton Bay, and then obviously I picked seasons so that I could use the holiday items. So right now I've already got the shell of the house done and I'm working on the roof. I did build this based off of like a reference image that I found on Google so that, you didn't have to watch me struggle too hard with roofing. I'm really not great at it, but I've definitely gotten better as I've played the game and started looking at other people's builds, like on the gallery in The Sims 4, and watching other people build on YouTube. So I think we're just about done with the roof. I decided I usually don't build houses with like a very high foundation. I usually just do like one click up so that I don't have to bother with stairs. But the reference image that I was using did have some like low stairs, like a couple steps, so I decided to go along with that. I put this wallpaper on, and the corners, I swear, they never go where they're supposed to. They don't put the corners on every corner, and I'm not sure why it does that. I'm not sure like what criteria makes it, place. So I just went ahead and got rid of it, and instead I used pillars to put on all the corners, which I'm going through and doing now. They are a different color. The ones that I put on the porch I'll end up changing later, but I really like putting columns on the corners because I don't know, it breaks it up and gives it a little bit more character, in my opinion. So I kind of went with like a dark and light brown theme was kind of the idea. There wasn't a trim for the roof that really matched though, so I did a black trim on the roof. So when I did the foundation, I picked a brown that went with the rest that was also black underneath, so it's kind of all tied together. I did decide to go with a theme with the windows. I really just don't like doing windows. I don't like a lot of the window selection that we have, but the ones in cats and dogs aren't too bad, so I just filtered for that and just used all cats and dogs windows. Makes my life simple. I don't use them as much as you'd think I would since I really like them, but I added some corbels on the gabled sides of a few of the roofs. I added some in the front and on the left side, and then some in the back on the second story. I really like how they look, and then I pulled the eaves out a little bit to cover them so that they weren't sticking out. Oh, I just noticed that I added some corbels on the right side as well. So here I start doing, I got rid of the, walls from when I did the shell, and I'm adding this doorway. And then to save you all the trouble of watching me struggle with the floor layout here in a second, I'm just going to skip to where I have it finished. I put down random lights, to light it up as I'm building. There we go. There's my layout. Right now I'm trying to match the browns of the wood here, and then I just decided to give up because it's not working, and I switched all the doors to white. Now I'm going to try to figure out what wallpapers I want. I cut out a lot of that too. I looked at several before I decided on this one. The brown trim on the wallpaper doesn't really match the windows super well, but it wasn't too off-putting, so I went ahead and went with it. I put this linoleum in the kitchen. I really like the linoleum, but there was just, I don't know, the kitchen just looked too light compared to the rest of the house. So later I end up just replacing it with the same wood flooring that I did in the dining room and living room. So I've got all the floors and walls done, the windows, all the basic stuff that make it a house. And so now I'm actually going to start putting furniture in. And then there's the floor. I struggle a lot with getting the windows to line up because you can hold, I think it's Alt and then it's either 8 or 9 or 9 and 0, but you can move the windows up and down, and I can get one, but then the other one never wants to quite line up right. So if anybody knows how to do that, so that they actually line up, that would be great. You can also like free move them if you just hold down Alt, but I don't know, maybe I'm just stubborn. Maybe I should just start doing that instead. Now we're working on the bathroom. I really like that shower stall, but the tile inside the shower stall doesn't match the white tile that I chose for the walls and floor, and it kind of drove me a little crazy, but I went with it, and so I just kind of did like a dark brown and black theme for the toilet and sink as well, and it kind of tied that together. I also really love that table, but it doesn't match anything, so I gave up on that pretty quick and went with this one. So I tried this chair, but I wasn't really feeling the purple, and so I set it off to the side in case I decide to come back to it, but then I found this chair and liked that one a lot better, so I get rid of the purple one. And then I kind of leave the dining room and come over to the living room. So when I build houses, my process is that I'll go through and I'll put down like the basic furniture to like indicate that, what the room is. Like in the kitchen, I put the cabinets and the fridge and stove and sink. And then in the dining room, I put the dining table and chairs. And then in the living room, I put, the love seat and couch and the coffee table, the TV. And then, once I'm done with all the basic stuff, I'll go back through and decorate more. So now I've got the bedroom, the master bedroom. I couldn't decide what color I wanted, and this is where I decided that I wanted purple. So I went with that bed with the purple pillows. Then I went through and changed the windows because the nightstands were running into them and I didn't like how it looked. So here I'm matching up the shades so that the nightstand and dresser match. Then I get this rug, and there were 2 different color swatches that I couldn't decide between the purple one and that one, and I kept going back and forth, back and forth. My boyfriend was sitting here while I was working on it, and so I asked him which one he liked more, and we ended up agreeing on the purple. Now I'm doing the toddler bedroom. I decided to go with the toddler because it is a pretty small bedroom, so it can fit a small bed. But you could probably, rearrange it to, fit a bed in there for a child. I don't like any of the kids' dressers in The Sims 4. There might be one, but it wasn't available, in the 2 packs that I had it filtered down to. So I ended up going with the little, what is that even called? The little thing with the little cubbies. I really liked the koala chair. It was really cute. This is another part where I asked my boyfriend for some input about which cat we liked the most, and he had it narrowed down to 2, which included that one, and I was leaning toward that one, so that's the one we decided on. Put some books over there in the corner. I'm not sure if the little stack of 2 books is functional. I know that like the stacks, like the bigger stacks where they're like standing vertically, are functional, so I don't know. If it's not, it's there for decoration, but if it is, you can probably click on it to read the kids' books or something. I found these curtains. I did not know that we had these curtains, and when I found them, I fell in love immediately. I love fall-themed things, so they're like my new favorite curtain now. Not that I can use them a whole lot in general, but for this house, they work perfectly since I'm going for like a fall, Harvest-Fest theme. I struggled forever getting that table to fit in there the way that I wanted to. I moved the front door and the window and ended up adding an extra chair, and I was struggling with the sizing of the rug. It was a mess. I cut a lot of it out, but it ended up working all right. The reference photo that I based the house off of didn't have a fence around the porch, but I decided it might look better if I added one. So I used the Seasons fence there, and I was really pleased to find that it had a shade of brown that matched the pillars like almost perfectly, so I went ahead and added that. So since, I am decorating this for a holiday, I did add the little box of decorations there, so if you download it, you can add additional Harvest Fest decorations that hang on the outside of the house. I decided that, we needed some sort of, like skill building item there in that little, like, mud room, I guess you could call it. So I added the flower arranging station. Now we're really starting to get into the decorations. I added the pumpkins and squash on the front porch. I saw that chicken and thought it was adorable, so I threw it in the kitchen. Found some lights. I just kind of like scroll through the list of decorations here. It's in the outdoor tab, but I just added stuff that looked good as I found it. I decided to add some planters outside since I had the flower arranging station. So if you play in this house, you've got a place to plant flowers, and then you can pick them and arrange them inside. As I was going through this, I thought it was really fun that a lot of the decorations come in like a bunch of swatches that correspond to a whole list of holidays. Which I've noticed on some things before, but there really are quite a few items that do that, so that was really nice. There we go. Can't forget our traditional symbol of Thanksgiving. I really liked the pumpkins, so I decided to put them on the table. So I sized them down so that they would fit, but they don't actually slot to the table. So I used, the Alt 9 again to raise it up so that it looks like it's sitting there. I added that desk in the living room, but I didn't want it to stick out too far from the wall, but it had a brown that matched the rest of the living room. So to make it work, I kind of pushed it back into the wall. I did, turn the wall to make sure that it wasn't sticking out on the other side, but it should still be functional since the computer sits at the front and not the back. It is still enough space that it will fit decorations up there as well, so it worked out nicely. That shelf was just too cute to leave out, so I was like, I'm gonna throw it in the corner over here. So I threw some decorations in the kitchen, yeah, and they don't really look nice where they slot to on the counters, so if you make sure that it's already sitting on the counter and then move the counters out of the way, you can hold Alt down and kind of like drag it into place where it would be on the counter, and then you move the counters back and it looks like they're just naturally sitting there. See, those are the books that I was talking about earlier. I do know that those ones are functional. I'm just not sure if the little short stacks are. So usually plants are one of the last things that I start throwing in. So there's my first plant, there's another plant. Because I like to get in like the furniture first, and then I'll start worrying more about decorations like plants, especially if they take up floor space, because I don't want to take up all my floor space first and then have to come back and delete stuff if I want extra, tables or skill building items or whatever. Here I'm matching the colors of the rug in the kitchen to put the rug in the mudroom over here. It was a really pretty plant, but I also wanted a plant in the corner there, so I ended up getting rid of the one on the accent table because I didn't want two big plants in the room like pretty much right next to each other. So I got the little cat planter instead that matched the cat inside the kids' bedroom, and those looked alright side by side. That fan is kind of ridiculous looking, but I decided to throw it in there anyway because it was like a matching brown, and living rooms have fans, so I figured it wouldn't hurt. I decided to kind of look like, the Sim that lives here is into photography, so I put the camera there with a picture next to it to kind of imply that, they were a photographer. Of course, if you were to play here, you could replace that with actual photos that your Sim takes. I really like the corkboard, so I put the corkboard there and moved those paintings into the master bedroom. Alright, so I started the landscaping, right? I put down the trees And then I started to do the bushes up front, and my computer decided that it didn't want to save my recording. So I ended up having to, and I didn't notice till later, of course, so I ended up having to go back in and like get rid of everything that I had done when it had cut off the recording. And yep, right here. So when it comes back in, I have like an extra rock over at the side of the house. There's another rock so in the front of the house that's missing, and the time of day is different. So please excuse me not quite getting the details right to come back and redo everything. But I do finish up the landscaping, and it looks pretty much the same as it did before. When I do the terrain paint up front, that probably didn't come out exactly the same. Well, I know it didn't come out exactly the same because it's terrain paint. But yeah, the version that I'm going to upload will be the first version because I think it looked a little bit better in that version. But you'll still get the same general idea from what I'm showing here. So yeah, so here's where I added a curved walkway with the stone terrain paint. It looks pretty much the same, but what really looked different was the terrain paint over by the planters, because I kind of put some dirt over there that I wanted to look like worn down ground where like people walk back and forth to the planters, and it looked a lot better the first time I did it. So that's why I didn't save my redo so that it would keep the original version of the house. Alright, so this is where I start finishing up the terrain paint. I'll kind of quickly go through each room so that you can see what it looks like. Here's where I did the terrain paint. But so yeah, so I hope you enjoyed my video. If you want to come back again, subscribe so that you know when I post. And I hope if you celebrate Thanksgiving that you're having a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.